And actually, you'll see a great article in The Independent that talks more about this. But basically, what had happened was, and I love it. Well, what had happened was, and that's never a good way to start things, right? Like you go, hey, how was your day? Well, it was good, but what happened was, it's like, oh boy, it's a very interesting story from there. But what happened was they started putting out tweets with specific information about their users. And this data is actually 100% accurate. Some people looked into it and realized, yeah, this is 100% accurate data. And the original tweet for this actually was the Netflix account put out to the 53 people who've watched A Christmas Prince every day for the past 18 days. Who hurt you? Now, of course, this type of social media is not new. And I mean in the sense of using data, but also this type of like attitude or way of speaking to their target demographic, right? The Wendy's social media account is notorious for this. Spotify has already been doing similar advertising or marketing ploys like this for the past, I would say, 2 to 3 years now. That's been like one of their major campaigns, is using data to show how they're connecting with their audience and that they understand them.
Yeah, like they had a one of their ads, for example, said, "Dear person who made a playlist called One Night Stand with Jeb Bush like he's a Bond girl in the European casino. We have so many questions. Thanks, 2016. It's been weird."
I have so many questions. I don't even understand that playlist. I mean, it's a brilliant playlist because that title, but also you have to then think, what the hell music is in that playlist?
Yeah, it's intense. And, you know, for something like that, too, part of the problem, right, is that they're calling out individuals, right? Like, especially that Spotify ad. Like, I can go, I guess, search for that playlist now and find out who made it, right?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
But also, I just want to take a quick moment to say thank you to our newest follower, Elaine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the Brainstream.
But for the Netflix one, where their sort of defense, I guess, was, well, we're not calling out individuals, right?
Right.
Right, but you still get that information and you're still putting it out there. And the problem, or there's a lot of problems. One of them isn't necessarily that you're calling out individuals, but rather, why are you, I guess, maintaining this information to begin with? Like, well, not why. We get it. You're a business. You have to do stuff.
Right.
But why are you releasing it? And it's, to me, it feels like companies like Netflix, and Spotify and Uber actually also posted in 2014, I believe. Uber had a blog post up that talked about, I forget the name that they gave them, but basically people who were being driven to and from a one-night stand, if you will. And they looked at the data of these people who, took rides multiple times throughout the week, for example, over a long period of time. Multiple rides to and from a particular destination that coincided with someone who might have a one-night stand or a booty call. And they wrote a whole blog post about it, right? And so though they had a little bit of a backlash for that particular thing as well. So it's like these companies are using this information to, get clicks and retweets and likes and have, make it part of their own advertising. And I think that's where people are getting upset about as well. Again, if you're a business, you need to know your demographic. You need to understand what they like and what they don't, what kind of products you can market to them. So fine, collect the data. That, to me, the collection of data isn't the bad thing, I guess. It's what they do with it after that is questionable, right? Like, that's fine if you want to make my Apple Watch, which I don't have one. But if you wanted to make a product that I have better, sure, collect data. I'll give you information about what I would prefer or how I use it or something like that, so you can make your product better. but don't use that data then and either make fun of your customers, which, can be said of some of these companies. That's what it feels like, at least. Don't make fun of them. Or don't exploit that data. Don't sell it to third parties. Don't use it to make a better product so you can make a shit ton of money in a kind of sleazy, exploitative sort of way. Make it so you can make a better product because you want to be a good company, right? I mean, that's kind of my spiel on that.
Well, so I feel like, and this topic can go in many different directions. So to slowly kind of unpackage all of this information, at least from my perspective, one is that, some people question, well, do they have the right to collect this data? Now, some people might not like what I have to say, but I'm going to say, yes, absolutely, they have the right to collect this data if you're willingly giving it to them, right? We all sign up. We all have those fill in the box blanks where it's like first name, last name, social security number, pet's last name, blood type, whatever kind of questions that they ask you, and we willingly fill it out. We don't have to give that information, and we don't have to use that product. And typically with many products, there are always a competitor or an alternative. But again, we're like, oh, well, I have to have it, so I willingly give them this information. And I'm at fault for this too. Absolutely. I'm not saying I'm not. But, I would say this. We were talking about cars not too long ago here. And this is the thing. If someone was driving your car around, so if you parked it in one spot and it moved to another, wouldn't you want the data for who's driving your car? So that's, so as a company, I want to know who's using it, right? Now, ideally, then it goes into the conversation of, well, how are they using that data? For instance, do I find out who's driving my car and figure out what their address is, and then all of a sudden I don't know, light something on fire and put it on their doorstep and run away? Or do I go, okay, I need to figure out how I can safeguard myself from this person so they don't keep driving my car? Or, hey, maybe I could start up a rideshare business and charge them for it. Again, it's not the perfect example here. But again, I think you kind of get my point in this, is that it is important to figure out how people are using it. And ideally, right, it's to make it better. It's to improve it. It's to figure out how can we make this more of a part of our target audience's life and really make it something special and unique that people always want to use. But again, many businesses forget this, and then they try to go through exploitative measures. Now, I will say there is a little bit of hypocrisy with the backlash on Netflix to a point, because as we mentioned, Spotify did this a couple years back. And now I'm not familiar originally with the post that you found about that listing out that specific playlist, which, yes, if you have a specific playlist, that's an issue because people will search for it. People will find you and figure out who you are, especially based on the amount of information you've given Spotify for your account. But originally, their stuff was a lot less specific, and they would just say, hey, for the 33 million people that listen to Mariah Carey on rotation during Christmas, we salute you, or something like that. And they put it on billboards, they put it in ads in magazines, and they were getting a ton of positive feedback because people thought it was such a cool concept, and the fact that they're looking at their audience and they're focusing on them and pointing out how popular certain songs are, or, these kind of weird viral things that happen where a specific random song suddenly becomes super popular. People thought that was actually kind of cool. But again, how did they use it, and did they go too far? Well, yeah, if you mentioned, like you mentioned, a Spotify playlist, that can be going too far. And you have to think about, well, how do people take in this information, and how could they use it in a way that's negative then, even if your intentions are pure in a way?
And that's a great point, because you're right. Once you've collected this data, who's got access to it? Where is it going to end up? Like, even if you as the company have a, if your intentions are good, let's say, someone else who might have the data, their intentions might not be so good. Or if you get hacked, right? Look how many companies get hacked, like every other weekend. And that's just the ones we hear about. Those are just the things that we hear about. And it's interesting because I think that, again, the trend that we're all moving towards certainly in the US, is that all of our data is out there. Every time we sign up for something or agree to some terms of services for a free thing here and a free thing there, nobody reads through all the fine print, right?
I'm not reading through Apple's TOS. Hell no.
Yeah, it's it's you can basically be signing away a lot of your data freedoms, and you don't even know about it. So then there's not even any recourse, right? And again, right, the pros and cons. You can say, oh man, like I'm never going online ever again. I'm never using anything ever again. Okay, that'll make your life a little bit more difficult. You can certainly do that. So there's like a convenience factor to all of these things as well, right? A lot of the free sites, well, even a lot of the free sites, and now a lot of the paid sites, a lot of the paid everythings that you do take your data. But you in a way too, I feel like they say too, well, you're getting something in return, you're getting that convenience factor, you're getting the thing that you wanted, right? And it's tough because, again, certainly in the US, corporations, companies, businesses, they get, I feel like, preferential treatment by the government. And so that's it's like a whole nother Pandora's box. But, I feel like a lot of the things that we hear about, unless, Netflix or Spotify or Uber actually makes these, this data collection process visible in the way that they have with their advertising. I mean, who knows who else is collecting our data and how and what it is, and what data we're sending out there into the into the netherworlds,
into the Netherlands, like over in Denmark and Sweden. And
hey Jacob, how's it going? How's my data over there? No, it's just but we're sending it out into the void of the internets, right? Whether knowingly or not, and whether willingly or not, it's out there. And if it wasn't actually for some of these companies that are using it then for advertising purposes, we may not even know, right? Because that's the other part of the backlash is a lot of people probably thought that, all of the sensual flicks they watch on Netflix would remain, with Netflix. But it's like, maybe they won't, And then they go to a website and they'll have an advertisement for, I don't know, some other items that maybe they didn't want their significant other to see, So there's just interesting, because that's kind of my other point that I was trying to make is, this data is being collected, but it doesn't always even stay with the original collector, right?
Right.
It's like me knowing stuff about you and then going over to the neighbor and being like, oh, by the way, Evan did this. And then the next time the neighbor sees you, they know all this stuff about you, right? And you're like, oh, I thought I just told you.
Well, and, you can even look at data as content that you create, too. I won't get too much into this by any means, because that's a whole other topic and a whole other hour of discussion that you can jump into.
We have a lot of those.
we have a lot of those. But you can also consider your content as data being put out there, right? When you use photos on Facebook and Instagram in their TOS, you're actually giving them the okay to then use those photos, if they so choose, for advertisements. There was actually someone who took a photo, I think it was actually during Christmas, to be honest, and it was on Facebook. This came out about 2 years ago, maybe. And they posted up on Facebook, shared it with friends and family, didn't think much of it. And then in Africa, there was a billboard using that photo. And it went viral because it went on the internet. And that person who took the photo went, that's my photo, and shared it out. And they realized, well, they had signed their rights over. And we have actually several streamers, because we stream on Twitch for this podcast. And we have several streamers in the chat right now. And I'm curious for how many of you as streamers know this, that for streaming, whenever you record a stream, you're not allowed to actually put it up on any other platform. So if you're on Twitch and you wanted to take that Twitch video footage and put it up on YouTube, you actually have to wait 24 hours. You have to have a grace period of 24 hours before you can post on any other platform. Otherwise, you're violating the terms of service that you're agreeing to with Twitch. And so, not many people realize that even your content, which is part of your data in a way, can also be utilized in sometimes positive ways, because I understand. I'm not complaining about the Twitch thing, because I understand it completely, right? You want people to come to your platform, and you want them to ideally see it first on Twitch. Completely understand it. But there are people who do things that aren't as understandable when it comes to things like that, right? Where they're not using the data or the content appropriately, based on what we would like as the user, as the end user, such as that photo from Facebook that I was mentioning that went into that billboard ad. And, I think too, though, to get back onto this specific topic, what's also very interesting, and I think actually fueled the flames even more, was the responses of Netflix, of whoever's running their social media account, because whoever was doing that, whatever marketing firm was trying to, bring this edginess to their posts, they started really pissing people off, to be honest, based off of their response. I don't know if you want to read some to let folks in on that.
So their response. This is their responses to the people who are responding to their original tweet. So their original tweet was, to the 53 people who've watched, this is Netflix's original OG tweet, to the 53 people who have watched A Christmas Prince every day for the past 18 years who hurt you. And then, of course, people on Twitter responded to that. And then Netflix responded to them. So, for example, somebody said, replying to Netflix, "Why are you calling people out like that, Netflix?" And Netflix says, "Oh, I just want to make sure you're okay."
A little snarky, but
just a tad. They're just trying to be Wendy's. Wendy's Twitter.
It really is.
Somebody else responded, replying to Netflix, "Suddenly I am very concerned about what Netflix thinks of our Teen Titans Go viewing habits." And Netflix says, "Oh, no, you're fine."
Okay.
And then this is my favorite, I think you might say. Somebody replying to Netflix, "You're not my mom." And Netflix said, "Okay, sweetie." Wow.
Now, mind you, some of the comments from folks on Twitter weren't nasty or anything like that, and they kind of were a little playful. But, people are honestly bringing up an earnest concern for their data usage and how it's being shared out there. And it feels like it's really just being kind of brushed under the rug by whoever's running their social media. So that's, I think, really hurting them as well. It's just not something that I think they planned for, and I think they were just trying to play it off, and then boom. So I don't know. It's a tough situation, because it's like, in some ways, yes, Netflix is to blame for using the data the way they did, but it was the marketing firm who really pushed it out there too. And I'm curious on, like, do they use a third party, or is it all in-house? And how is that process? And boy, am I glad that I'm not that person who put out those tweets.
Yeah, that's and it's to kind of go off the topic a little bit of data security and whatnots, but it's tough to be, I think, social media manager for these large public-facing companies nowadays. Like, I feel for them, because it's hard to know, what can you say? How can you say it? When should you respond? When should you not respond? What's worth respond? There's a lot of things, and obviously we've talked in the past, I think, about Wendy's Twitter account. Whoever's running that Twitter account is amazing.
I don't eat Wendy's, but I give them props for whoever's running that, because man, they are on point, and they respond to everyone, and it's always playful though, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, but
they haven't also done a screw up like this. Right. They're not going, right. "Hey, Fred, you said you were going to lose 50 pounds by the end of the year, and your big butt's still, eating all this food. Like, what's wrong with you?"
Wendy's Twitter social media management team, if you hear this, you can use that tweet. It's free of charge. We're okay with it. Just give us credit, and because we'd like to hang out and be friends.
And maybe eat some Frosties, maybe.
But going back on the topic of data security, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because it doesn't, it doesn't stop me from being online, from putting my information out there, from signing, you know, signing away my my rights to all my data. But it does make me, it makes me more aware, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I do it with more intention. Like I'm aware that probably, especially if it's free, something free, my data is going somewhere, right? So use a different kind of email for it. And I try to not do it when I'm in sensitive areas. And when I worked for companies, I wouldn't do it from the work computer, that type of thing. And if it isn't free, just be aware. Just because you're paying for something, it doesn't mean that you're safe from your data being used. But also to be aware that not every company has malicious intent, right? Like As we were talking before, maybe they do actually want to improve the product, and maybe they do want to improve the product so they can make even more bajillions of dollars. I mean, they're a business, right? You can't. I don't know. I have a hard time with it because on the one hand, as a business owner, it's like, well, it's a business, right? You have to make money to stay, one, sustainable, and two, if you're a large business and you've got shareholders and people to respond to that you're, kind of have these obligations to make them more money, you're kind of just doing your job. So it's tough, right? It's like, it's another one of those, if you go down this path too much, bad things happen. Maybe try to stay on this other path a little bit more, but trying to find that balance where you're not pissing people off, but you get to still keep your job and your business afloat.
Exactly. And actually, I want to read out something that someone in our chat mentioned. It's a little bit of a lighter end to this topic, which I think is great. Unfortunate, but great for this specific topic. And it was from Oline, and I'm sorry if I'm saying your name incorrectly, but they were saying that I ruined my own Christmas present once because my BF and I were on his phone reading an article, and he had been Googling gifts for me, and every suggestion on the page was what he was getting me. And that's the other thing, right? Is the fact that, and I've seen this, I visited a website, I'll visit like a clothing website, let's say, or something like that to check out a new hat, like the one I'm having on right now, or a hoodie or something like that. And all of a sudden I go on Facebook, for example, which I don't do as much anymore because that's a whole other topic. But if I go onto Facebook, suddenly I'm getting bombarded by that ad everywhere on the sidebar, within my news feed, even in my Google searches. And then suddenly all of a sudden I'm getting emails going, hey, come back to our website. I'm going, oh my God, I didn't even give you anything. And so, and yeah, they're trying to make a buck, right? And they're trying to go, well, you were interested, so let's try to fuel the fire a little bit behind that interest and see what you do. But yeah, some crazy things can happen too, where like you ruin a gift, you ruin that perfect gift idea, or God, there's so many things that could happen. So hopefully you've learned some new things, at least about how data is being used, how not to use it. And know the fact that, hey, people are waking up to this, and businesses have to adapt and figure out, okay, well, what is too far? What kind of boundaries do we actually need to set here? Because as we mentioned in the previous topic about wearables, that information or that regulation is just not there. How do you use data? How do you collect data? Where are you putting said data? And then also, who are you selling it to? Should you be allowed to sell that data? All of that. And this is why Facebook is free, folks. This isn't a conspiracy. It's not tinfoil hat. It's the fact that not only do they make their money off ad revenue, they make money off of collecting your data because we willingly give it. What are my favorite movies? What are my favorite songs? When do I post? And what do I post about?
When did I go to that restaurant? With whom? What did I have there? What did I...
Yeah, and then they sell off that information, but they also then include it into their advertising packages, so that way when companies go in and try to find that right target market, you've given them plenty of information to find you. So that's just how it works. So it's good to be aware of that and, start formulating your own thoughts on this, because that's going to be important, because that's going to push whether we actually see any sort of regulation or none at all.
It's some crazy stuff.
It's never a dull moment. Welcome to life. Welcome to 2017, almost 2018. Welcome to Wednesday. Welcome to life.
I will say what's really crazy too is like I'll be on Instagram now because now Instagram has ads or promoted posts, whatever words they want to call them. They're all ads. But basically, and like to kind of, again, the quote unquote positive, I guess, on this would be that, I'm on Instagram and I get a lot of ads now for cat stuff because I like cats. And now everybody knows. Okay, if you didn't know before, that wasn't obvious.
She loves felines.
But now Instagram knows I like cats too. Go figure. So I get all these like ads for buy this cat thing and buy this cat thing. And you know what? Probably 1 out of 10 times. I click on almost all of them because they're so on point with their marketing. Cat calendar this, cat calendar that, whatever it is. And but I click on them, and 1 out of 10 times I do end up purchasing something that I'm like, wow, that is really cool. I actually really want it. It's affordable. It looks like it's from a great company, and I'm thankful for the ad, right? So
it's tough because it's really dependent too on your self-restraint. If you're a person who can restrain yourself from buying everything on an impulse, then those ads are great, right? Because you can ignore the ones you don't like, and you might be introduced to new products, which I have been. I've been introduced on Instagram and Facebook and other platforms to new products that I'm like, this is awesome, and I would never know about it if it wasn't for this ad. So I am very grateful. But again, I think personally that I have better restraint than some other people because I'm not always out online buying everything that I see, and I'm fine with not having the latest shiny car or anything like that, right? I'm a little bit more reserved in that sense. So for me, I'm like, cool, no, stupid, why am I getting this? And then move on. There's so many people out there though that are like, yeah, I have $5, I could totally buy this. No, this is okay, let me throw this out, let me buy this, and it goes crazy. So it's really tough to say for sure whether it is really negative or not, especially without knowing any numbers of like, based on the human population of the earth, how many people have more self-restraint than others, and what does that really mean? And you get into this huge philosophical debate more so than anything else, and then nothing gets resolved.
But I want to know, is it right or wrong? Should I do it or shouldn't I?
Should I stay or should I go?
Should definitely stay. Stay, guys.
Yeah. Hang out.
Also, welcome, Maha. Hi.
Hey, Maha. Welcome to the stream. Glad you could join us. It's awesome being able to connect with people from all over right here on stream, on Twitch. This is why I love this community, and through this podcast, which you'll probably be hearing later on as well.
On Podbean.
On Podbean.
This stream sponsored by Podbean. Uggs, North Face, Anthropology.
Netflix. Why did you watch that film?
Although, a quick note.
Do you watch that with your mother?
Quick note on Netflix too. Actually, I think I showed you this the other day. They actually, I think, they tried to cover up their bad tweet or whatever. But one of the things they did is, I don't know, for those of you that may not be familiar, when you are watching Netflix for a long period of time, let's say you're doing a marathon watching of your favorite show, 2 or 3 seasons long, after a few episodes, because it auto plays, right? Like if you don't do anything, for a while, it just kind of auto plays the next episode, right? Mm. After, and I don't actually know how long, but after a certain period of episodes or time or something like that, Netflix asks, "Are you still watching?" And you have to say yes or no. And so one of their latest set of tweets that they did, actually just like yesterday or so, they had, and it was each tweet had one word, but it said, "Are you still watching?" ? And I thought it was brilliant. I'm like, okay, see that?
Yeah.
That is okay. That is brilliant advertising, because now I'm like, yeah, actually, I do have to stream season 2 of Jane the Virgin. So it like reminds you of stuff.
That's a true story, by the way.
True story based on true events.
Narrated by Morgan Freeman in her head. Then she watched Jane the Virgin.
Jane the Virgin actually has an amazing narrator. Props to him. Anyways. But, so there's ways you can, again, use marketing to good, not bad.